when it comes to the way Republicans specifically vote, they don't, and white people and other races of people, the way they vote, they do not vote emotionally.
Right.
The only race of people that vote highly emotionally would be black people. And every time that we do that, we mess ourselves up, on every level.
So the thing is they take black emotions and they always serve it to us.
It works.
And it
Yeah,
works.
it works.
It works every single time. Yeah. That's why I don't like Black Lives Matter, because I feel like Black Lives Matter only shows up every 4 years or every 2 years when we have midterms. Midterms are coming up. You know what I mean? To then start with the whole police narrative all again. And then as soon as the voting's over, you don't hear anything about black people anymore. Yeah. They got our vote. They don't care anymore. I watched, because I was watching those other YouTubers, then, our videos came up, and sometimes I don't watch, like, our videos. I watch, like, what do you call it? Like, you binge watch?
Yeah.
So I didn't watch, like, the last 6 videos.
Of ours?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then I wouldn't watch all of them.
Okay.
And that's what I was saying. I think that we sound more like them than I thought we did.
I know.
That's probably why I like those people, because we do. Because I was looking at like all of our content, and I was just thinking, well, we do sound. I maybe it's because I do sound more like that. I don't know. Maybe I'm not a liberal. You know what I mean? Like maybe I just never was, and I just
we thought we were. Well,
because I was black, I felt like I had to be or something. I don't know.
Hi everybody, how are you doing today? We're back at it. Okay, so we're going to talk about politics today. I mean, in a way. In a way. We actually got asked about what our political stand is on things, the Black Lives Matter stuff. So we thought we would talk a little bit about that today and what we think of it. And what's interesting about politics is that, as I've said before in other videos, people have told us before, talking about politics, race, and religion is like, you shouldn't talk about any of that stuff, because when you talk about that stuff, it never pans out well. And I think we've always said, then what else is there to talk about, right? Because I don't believe in stifling, I guess, my voice on these issues and things. So it doesn't bother me to talk about politics. Now, I will say, because we were talking about this earlier, is that because you said that even when we first started doing this show, it's not that we didn't want to talk about politics, is that the way that we think is
not mainstream.
It's not mainstream, and it's much different than a lot. Well, it's progressively, it's getting different right now, but definitely the way that we think politically is not exactly the way black people normally would be on board with, right? Because of, I think that we have been kind of brainwashed into believing kind of one way, and we've always just fought that way, which is obviously the Democratic way. Now, I am not a Republican or a Democrat. If I was anything, I would say I was independent. I do believe that in this country, I don't like this two-party system thing that is going on. I've always believed there should be more than just two parties that just put out the gate. But I will say, when it comes to the Democratic Party, there has been, in my opinion, so much, what's the word? Facts have come out, I guess, about the Democratic Party that I don't really understand why black people are still following that. Now, I won't judge people on that. People have their own reasons for being what they are, but I do think that, they're not. They appear to be for black people. I don't know if that is actually the factual case of it. Now, I can't really say that wholeheartedly about any party, to be honest with you, that they're all for black people, but it's not really about that. We were talking about this earlier, and I feel like black people are very emotional when it comes to politics, and Kara and I are very much more we think business-like when we think about politics.
Politics is business to me.
What are your thoughts on Democratic Party, Black Lives Matter? What's your thoughts on this? I'm
not a big fan of Black Lives Matter, or the feminist movement, or Me Too. Yeah, I'm sorry. I've called them in the past, like, feel sorry for me movements, and a lot of people don't like when I say that, because it sounds like I'm being like, I don't care. And the truth is that it's not that I don't care. It's that I think that those movements have agendas that are beyond what their actual cause is for. You know, I think that Black Lives Matter doesn't talk about all the parts of Black lives, all the things that contribute to the demise of Black people. They only talk about police brutality. And I think that there is much more beyond police brutality. There is so much more that the Black community, that we do to inflict harm on ourselves.
Yeah.
That they don't want to bring up. Because if they did that, then Black people wouldn't want to look at that. Because they would feel like being picked on. You know what I'm saying? Because my point is saying is that I don't like being called oppressed or a victim. I don't feel that way about myself. And so when I say that to people who are mostly Black people that I talk to, they always bring up Jim Crow and slavery. And the thing is that I don't stand on slavery the same way, because I look at slavery as you have to be all you can be because those people paved the way. You have to let go of victim mentality in order to move forward. You just have to. There are way too many billionaires that are Black in this country and millionaires that are in this country and successful Black people for us to still say that we can't get ahead. That's just not true.
Right.
You know what I mean? So for me, I'm not liberal. I don't have a liberal thinking. I don't think like the Democratic Party wants me to think.
And what's interesting though is that we were Democrats before,
right?
And I think that Kara and I have always been that we came to this conclusion not too long ago. We've always had, even younger, we've always had conservative views and mindsets. But I think that and understand when I say conservatives, I don't mean Republican. I'm just saying that we're more reserved in our thinking. So, but I think that we just followed what we knew. So traditionally speaking, Black people are Democrats.
Right.
So
we're in the 90%.
You ask 90
no
questions.
Percentile.
Yeah.
I mean, we're 90 percentile. We're like the only race of people that vote 90% one way. I mean, if you look at white people, they don't vote all Democrat or all Republican. If you look at Asian people, it's the same way. If you look at Hispanic people, it's the same way. Black people are like the only race of people that vote one way. So the Democratic Party uses us as a way to win, because they know that we're not going anywhere. We're not going to go anywhere.
The Democratic Party will be right on that.
That's true.
Because the reality and the facts show that we don't really budge on on this subject. Black people don't budge really at all. Now, in recent times, it's kind of Black people have kind of seen the light on some things, especially Black men. A lot of Black men have kind of seen that maybe the sticking to the traditional. If you're someone who wants to vote, if you're someone who's into political, into any kind of political things, and you do want to participate in that in some way, most Black people will vote Democrat. But I'm noticing now that a lot of Black people are really starting to see maybe what the conservative mindset, where they were going with that, which really is what most people think, right? Family values, the things that we all kind of hold high in standards. I would think that most people would think that way. Now, when it comes to the way Republicans specifically vote, they don't, and white people and other races of people, the way they vote, they do not vote emotionally.
Right.
The only race of people that vote highly emotionally would be Black people. And every time that we do that, we really mess ourselves up, on every level.
Right.
So I think that's where we kind of go wrong as Black people. And I don't know if Black people really like to call that out, because, when you do that, then you're sitting here as a Black person, oh my God, now you're where they call you a cocoon and you're all this because you're thinking different. It's like in this country, we have freedom of speech, but like Kanye West said, we don't have freedom of thought. And so what that really just means is that you can say what you want to say, but the moment you start to think differently and implement those thoughts into your own life and they start benefiting you, you're not allowed to do that. And I just think that Black people have a hard time just kind of converting over to a different way, not necessarily Republican, not Democrat, not independent, just Black people thinking a different way seems to be just one of these things where it's just like it's a dark cloud over our race. We are really the only mass group of people that are just buckled down to one way,
Well, one thinking, and even when African American celebrities recently Rihanna was seen walking around with a shirt that said, think freely, before it becomes illegal. And so that everyone got on her about that because they felt like it was about the vaccine mandates. That Biden was telling, censoring people and telling people that they got to get the vaccine, and anybody who said anything differently than that is canceled. That's just the way the media has portrayed this. And so people looked at her as kind of sticking her thumb into Biden's eye because she's black. If she had been white and said that, no one would do that. They say the same thing to anybody. It's just like with the Haitians at the border right now, and those cowboys wrangling in. And and here we have Maxine Waters. Oh, it's back, and Kamala Harris. Oh, it's like back into slavery. That isn't what that was.
They're spinning it differently.
That isn't what that was. Those people are illegal immigrants. They can't just come into our country. We have laws. You can't just come into America. You have to go through a process.
You vet this,
That's not fair to people who did that process and got here. You could just come here, and so it's just like they use situations to keep us emotional. So with those, it looks like 15,000 Haitians at the border, the southern border. Instead of not answering why they haven't dealt with that, why Joe Biden and Kamala Harris haven't dealt with that issue, they've decided to make this into a race thing due to some pictures of some cowboys at the border, the Border Patrol, and they try to make that into a race thing.
Instead of looking at the legal part of what it
looking
actually
at what that really is.
Right.
And so the thing is they take black emotions and they always serve it to us.
It works.
And it works.
It works.
It works every single time. Yeah. That's why I don't like Black Lives Matter, because I feel like Black Lives Matter only shows up every 4 years or every 2 years when we have midterms. Midterms are coming up. You know what I mean? To then start with the whole police narrative all again. And then as soon as the voting's over, you don't hear anything about black people anymore. They got our vote. They don't care anymore. And so this is why I just, even with Me Too, I've been Me Too'd. I was raped. You know what I mean? But I don't like Me Too because I feel like it's a bunch of female celebrities who are all in a soapbox, and they were mad at Donald Trump with the hats that look like vaginas, and they were mad at. I mean, like 3 million women showed up to that women's march, and they were all mad at Donald Trump because he won. And Hillary Clinton lost, and they used Me Too to sort of get him out and to make sure he didn't get elected again. And so you see what I'm saying? I feel like these are weaponized.
You can't choose to decide when you want to be a victim,
right?
You know what I mean? Like that can't be a thing. And I think that's what's happening.
I'm not a victim. I've lost everything. I start all over at the age of 35. I had to start all over again. You know, in a country that was I'm an American citizen, but I still don't see myself as a victim. I made bad choices. Yeah, it's not because I'm black. It's because I made some bad choices, and now I have to fix them, and I have. I'm starting to fix them.
That's called taking responsibility, and I think that when we speak about people feeling, or we did a video on this about being oppressed and feeling oppressed is two different things, right. And I think that what happens with black people a lot, like I said in that video, is that black people are feeling oppressed, and I think they want to stay feeling. Not all. I have to say that. Not all. But you guys know what I'm talking about. But like a lot of black people are saying that they are oppressed, literally, and I'm like, no, you're not oppressed. You're feeling oppressed, and then you need to keep feeling oppressed so you can have an excuse to why your life is not succeeding. Now, but I don't feel like the world is against me. Right. You know what I mean? I don't feel like the world is holding me back from anything. I just think that I'm supposed to I think that you as a human being are supposed to make something of your life. Right. And then when something goes wrong in your life or awry in some way, and you jump onto the white person did this to me, or the government is doing this and that and the other. It's like it's like not taking any kind of accountability for where you messed up. That's why I'm having a problem, I think, when it comes politically with black people, is that a lot of times black people don't want to talk about where we're messing up. And that's what I'm saying. Like I would be for Black Lives Matter if they did that. If they would talk about the things where we need to improve. But they don't. They only talk about things that happen to us and not things that we do to ourselves. You know what I mean? Like single mothers. And at that high rate that we have, the abortion rate that we have. I mean, what do they say? Since the 1960s, we've aborted like 20 million babies. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's been used as a birth control.
You know what I mean? We're supposed to have way more Black Americans in this country, but we've plateaued. We're only at 13%. We're only 13% of America. We should have more. We've been in this country too long.
Yeah.
You know who the largest number of new people coming are Hispanics. Because they're not getting rid of their babies.
More specifically, Mexicans.
You know what I mean? Mexicans
so
are they're going to be the new minority. You know what I mean? Like,
did you know why though? Because you know why they're succeeding like that? It's because they used the service industry to their benefit. They worked hard. Know that people are talking mess about them the whole time, right? A lot of them are in the service industry. A lot of them are landscapers and stuff now, and now they own those companies, and now they're building, and now they are no longer in like the bottom of the totem pole.
Yeah,
they're not. They've surpassed us.
Right.
They surpassed us. So the only way that can happen for an entire race of people to be able to succeed that quickly in a country that is not naturally or not theirs, born and raised here, is because they weren't over emotional. They were just trying to make it and get on top. They did that without playing victim all the time, and this is a problem. I think that we get to this point where we play this kind of victimized, and I can't get on board with that. And when it comes to like the Democratic Party, for instance, like they're very, very into making sure that we stay highly emotional on things. If you just see how it spins. Kara and I don't watch a lot of like mainstream stuff and secular types of things, but you know, like we have interactions with people, so we know the majority of Black people. If we ask any Black person right now, you know, the majority of them are going to say that they're a Democrat, right? And they're liberals and all this, you know, and not even understanding why they are.
Yeah.
I didn't. So when I was a liberal, a Democrat, you could say, I didn't know why I was. Right? I didn't. So when it comes to like facts and then like politics and then policy, like couldn't tell you nothing. I just knew that I was a Democrat and this is the way it's supposed to be because Republicans are the big bad wolves, right? And so you got to be this. And it's like, well, but then I started to just started looking at the world, not listening to politicians necessarily, because politicians, you know. But looking at the way the things go in the world, it just started to make sense to me that, politically speaking, the Democrats are not the saviors necessarily, you know, and the Republicans are not necessarily the big bad wolves.
Right.
Right.
I mean, we don't need. To me, I don't think that we need such big government to help us all the time. I think that we need to help ourselves. I mean, I know Black people my whole life, and all they want to do is talk about Malcolm X. Well, Malcolm X was not a liberal, and in fact, he spoke warned us about the media. He warned us about the Democratic Party because he said that the Democratic Party it's like a fox, and the Republicans are like the wolf. The wolf looks scary. The fox looks like it's your friend because in the chicken coop they're the same size as the chickens, and then they come in and they attack you.
He warned us.
That's what they do. He warned us that this a long time ago. You know what I mean? And look, I agree with that. You know what I mean? Because he, just like Malcolm X X also agreed with pulling our own self up. Stop trying to wait for white people to always accept us and save us, because that's just not going to happen. You know what I mean? We have to save ourselves. Yeah, we have to save ourselves.
Yeah, people walk around with the Malcolm X T-shirts and the hats and the Malcolm X this and that, you know, another. And I'm like, you do understand what he was for and what he was against.
But even MLK, towards the end of his life, became much more militant than he was. I mean, Malcolm X actually became more, soft. He started working with white people because he realized his ideology of not letting anyone in your space, because you have to let people in your space. If you don't, no one gets anywhere without the help of others. Do you understand? So what I'm saying is that you can't do everything by yourself.
Yes, correct.
We have to allow white people in. Now, most people will say, well, what about white liberals? Well, white liberals have a hand sometimes of trying to keep us victims too, because it helps them. You know what I mean?
So they push us up to do the agenda part.
Right. Oh, they'll put their self down. Oh yeah, we suck as white people because we have a hand of because of your legacy, because of where you come from. You know what I mean? We come from slavery, we come from all that, but we do have to talk about slavery in a row. I mean, if you go to Africa, we were Africans enslaved each other. Yeah, and the whole reason why we came over here is because Africans sold other Africans. Yeah, Black people owned Black people in America. in slavery.
So this is something we're talking about. This is the good point.
This is things that people don't want to talk about.
Right.
That's my point.
This is the good point of what you saying this is because a lot of people don't want to look at that fact that black people were selling black Africans were selling Africans to white people.
Right.
To bring that happened.
But in America, black people owned black people.
That happened.
Because slavery was although black people were slaves, slavery was about money.
Yes.
It was a money thing. First of all, most white people did not own a slave. Slaves are very expensive.
Right.
You know what I mean? So only 2% of the white population in the South owned, slaves. It was a very expensive business.
Yeah.
Because they had free labor, but slaves could cost anywhere from $200 to $2,000.
And at that time, that was a lot. And you have to have several of them, by the way.
Right.
It's not like you just have one, that's it. No, you have several of them.
And depending on your body, if you were a big man, or if you were a really great cook as a woman, if you could, it was a horrible.
It was horrible.
It was a horrible business. You know what I mean? And it ended. But we can't pretend like slavery ended only on the backs of black people. White people had to help us. We didn't just, you know how many people on the Underground Railroad? Those were white people who let us stay in their homes while we got transported to the North. So if they got caught hiding us, they got treated like us. Right. You know what I mean? So we can't pretend like even the civil rights movement, there were white people standing out there helping us and saying stuff. You know, my grandmother was married to a black man. So.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. We can't pretend like
I don't like that.
We're so oppressed that no one ever helps us or anything. That's not true. You know what I mean? And then believe me, we have almost 20,000 Haitians at a border trying to get into this country. Black people. People from Africa try to come into this country. So America to me is not a racist country, but there are racist people in America. Country, but there are racist people in every country.
So when people say that that America is a racist country, no, I don't believe America is a racist country. I do, like you said, believe there's racist people in the country. If this country was outright racist, then we would not. That would mean that no black people were allowed to succeed. So Jim Crow. Black people were not allowed to succeed because it was in law. Now, some did. I'm just saying that it was a law. That is a racist situation. Right. That's a racist country if it's in law. But we're at a point, 2021. So we're at a point now where we should be able to succeed. If only we would get out of that locked mentality that we need so much help. With government and all, you know what I mean? Like all of this. So
America is a capitalist country.
Yeah, we are.
Money talks. You ever watch the show Jeffersons? He knew, even on that show, even on that show, George, if you really watch the show, he will say all the time, because before they had their own show, they were on the All in the Family show. Right. Well, Archie Bunker was poor. He was a bigot, but he was a poor bigot. And George Jefferson was black. And they had an episode about redlining and zoning and stuff. Zoning. And so because Archie lived in the area where
he could cut off.
He was living in what they call the black area. And so he didn't understand why his insurance had been cut off because of that. But then George Jefferson they said it was because of black people moving into the neighborhood. Right. Okay, that's true. But then George Jefferson was not in that same redlining. So he actually got to say, he said, but he's the black guy. He said, right, but he's living in the better part of the area. So what that says to you is that America is about money. Money. When you come to this country, you have to give it something. You have to own businesses. Which is why people who come to the country succeed. Right. America doesn't feel like it owes anyone anything. They don't care what your race is. Right. But you have to give this country something in order to move to the big time. We have I think they said now in Forbes we had 3 new black billionaires in this country. So to say it's a racist country, and then we've got Jay-Z, Oprah, LeBron James, we've got several, Ben Carson, or even just millionaires, or even just people who are just succeeding. Period. Doctors, lawyers. These are all these people. Obamas. It's like you can't really say. Like factually, I'm talking about facts here. So I think people are going to get emotional over this conversation because. You're hearing is, oh my God, we mean it's not, there's racism, we're being oppressed and racism. Like, okay, if you talk about one, you got to talk about the other. But I'm not being oppressed. See, I don't like for someone to tell me that I am oppressed because I'm black. I'm not oppressed because I'm black. I'm not oppressed because I'm a woman. This is why I don't like feminism. Right. Because feminism is trying to say that men oppress women. And that the patriarchy oppress women. No, the patriarchy, died in almost all the wars.
Right.
The patriarchy is going to be the ones that get, drafted.
Yeah.
The patriarchy has been the leaders of homes and the breadwinners of homes for decades until now. You know what I mean? So to sit there and then crap all over men because you want to get ahead is not fair.
No.
It's not fair to say that. Men are needed.
It's extremely manipulative too.
I say you can't to crap all over men for that just because women want to now go to work and be CEOs is not necessary.
Yeah.
I mean, Madam C.J. Walker was the first millionaire woman of any race in a time where it was Jim Crow.
So how do you explain that?
How do you explain that? It's not because she was black. Certainly.
No.
She didn't become wealthy. It's because she had determination. She didn't see herself as a victim.
She was.
And see, that's what I'm saying. It's not that we don't have things that victimize. In America, anybody can be a victim. This country is ready to make you a victim. If you want to be. There are lots of women on welfare and men on welfare that never want to get off welfare. They will sit there. They like it. They'll say, "Oh, it's oppressive," because I have to deal with the government. But you're never getting off that because it's money being sent to you.
What's your mentality going to be moving forward? You know what I mean? So, are you going to stay that way? So if you're raised in a poor, impoverished situation, right? So that's just your reality. You grew up that way. That's generations of that, right? And then you move on. You get older. It really is at some point in your life to be able to get out of that. You know what I mean? You don't have to.
You don't have to
if you don't want to.
But if you don't want to be a victim, you have to.
But you do have a choice. My thing is that you do have a choice. I was telling Kara earlier that we have there's a guest that stays in the hotel, and he has an account with us, so he's here often. He's a piece of business person, and he's a black man. And I remember him telling me his story, and he was telling me that he when he was in his late or mid 20s. He went to prison for 15 years. It was I think it was assault. I think the guy was pretty bad, right? Whatever he did, he got the guy in the hospital and was like a life support situation, right? So we did 15 years for this crime, right? And with no parole, he got the book thrown at him, right? And he was telling me that he's now a owner of a trucking company, right? But he was telling me, he said, when I got out of prison, I said to myself, well, I'm gonna have to get a job. So he went out looking for a job as an ex-con. Obviously, when you're ex-con, it is very difficult for you to get a job that pays you any money, right, whatsoever. So he said, but that wasn't even that. No one would hire me because of the amount of time I was in prison, which is scary. The 15-year thing is a scary thing for a lot of business owners. But he's like, and so no one wanted to hire me. So I had to basically own my own company. I really had no choice. I had to figure out how to own my own company just so I can get a job. And he ended up doing that. And it took him many years to get to the level he's at now, which is, it's a pretty big company, right? And he's doing really well for himself. He said, but not at any point in time of me being in prison for 15 years or the way I was brought up. He's brought up in hood, all this, the whole situation, anything you think of, he'd been through it, right? And he was like, I just never felt like, he said he feels like black people sometimes feel like they have to live up to the hood mentality and just keep doing that. He's like, and at no point in time did I ever feel like I was, like that was just my life. I was raised in the hood and poor, so I guess I'm just going to turn out. No, he said, once I got out of prison and did all that time, I made a vow to myself that I'm going to take care of my son, 1, and 2. I'm going to, succeed in life, and that's exactly what he did. So it's kind of like, I know that story is not a story that happens with a lot of people, and I understand. But
it's a story about choice, though.
Choices. That's what he was saying.
It's a story about getting out of your own way. Because if he was talking to us right now, he would probably say going to jail was the best thing that ever happened to me because now I own a business. Right. Had he had not went to jail, maybe he would have never owned a business.
Yeah, probably dead or in jail still.
We say that about when I lost everything. We had to start all over again. When I first lost everything, I thought that was it. I felt sorry for myself because everybody goes through your process. But now, because I've gotten out of it and better, that I feel like I'm glad that happened to me. Because had it not happened to me, I would have still been on the same road. Right. And sometimes I think that to be made to feel like a victim will keep you there. Because it gives you an excuse not to have to deal with yourself.
I think this is the biggest issue I think that I have with movements like Black Lives Matter. and all these different other movements that are going on, because I think that they're only one-siding it. And I think there is a part of Black people where we are doing ourselves a disservice in our own community. So, when Black people are shooting and killing each other, right? So we've heard that a million times, right? But it is factually true. And so, and people will say, oh, well, white people are shooting and killing each other. And right. But I'm Black and I'm focusing on the Black community. So we can't be doing that. We need to talk about what's happening in the community in order for us to get past this. But we don't want to talk about it. That's the problem, because when you talk about it, it's like it's like turning your back against your own. And it's not. It's just trying to.
It's not. I'm trying to uplift my own.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because don't get me wrong. When you hear me talk about Cardi B, Nicki Minaj, and Megan Thee Stallion, those are the three popular ones of the time. Now, there is a little bit of respect I have for these women, because these women came from the hood and they got themselves out, and I have respect for that. They pulled themselves up. This is what I do for my own life. Yeah. You know what I mean? What I'm talking about is the message that is always perpetually sent to our communities. Even back when I was younger, NWA, Foxy Brown, Little Kim, you know what I mean? And it damages the mentality of teenagers.
It does.
Because they don't look at this as entertainment. They look at this as a way to be.
They internalize.
And when we have a single mother rate in the Black community that's almost 80%, these things contribute to that. You know what I mean? So we have to look at ourselves, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I was on a Black conservative YouTube page. I made a comment the other day, and just saying that, look, I look at these movements sometimes and feel sorry for the movements, not because I don't want Black people to do better, but because the movements themselves are there to keep Black people where they really are. And I think that it's toxic in my opinion. You know what I mean? But as soon as I said that, I just had a different opinion. Then, I had several Black people who agreed with me, several. But then there were several Black people that called me a coon, called me a bedwench, said, you know what I mean? And I'm like, why do you need to call me names? Just because I had a different opinion than you.
Well, that goes back to the freedom of thought. See, so you can say
what you want, be free,
right? But Black people are but so many Black people are so, it's so ingrained to only believe that one way. This is the problem. That when they see a Black person saying something different than what the narrative is saying, and you're having a different thought process, your reality looks different. It's not even like a different thought process. You're just thinking your actual reality in life. You live your life differently than that. So you don't even, it's not ingrained in you to feel that way.
I've only had positive. So transparency. I've only had positive interactions with police officers. Yeah. First of all, I don't need the police all the time. That's one. My life isn't that I need to call the police or the police are coming to me all the time. But whenever I've had an interaction, the cops have always been very nice to me. I've never even, even when we're driving, I've been pulled over, with my friend Charity. We're going, and nothing happened. You know what I mean? Nothing happened. But now, me saying that doesn't mean that it doesn't ever happen to everybody else. This is just my experience. I don't have a police problem with myself. Right. You know what I mean? But I know several Black people that don't. Yeah. And I'm not saying, you know what I mean? But it doesn't mean that Black people don't get harassed by cops. And I'm not saying that I don't like that I don't think that cops unjustly do things. I'm not saying that. That would be. But I'm not for police brutality. Right. But I'm also not for Black on Black crime. Yeah. Which we kill each other at a higher rate than police kill us. Right.
That's facts.
That's just facts. You know what I mean? And so when you say that, a lot of Black people think, oh, well, you're just a coon and you're just standing up for white cops. I'm like, well, they're also Black cops. You know what I mean? Like, and also, no, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that when are we going to deal with ourselves?
You see, that's what I'm saying, though. I think they needed to.
Why do we need to always project and go on to everybody else? Do those things exist? Yes. But how do we contribute to being victim? Well, if you are a drug dealer, then you are a drug dealer, there are a lot of drug dealers, then the police are coming.
Well, your life. A couple of things are going to happen here. You're going to go to jail. You're going to die.
You're going to die. Right.
The two choices you have were high risk lifestyles. Yeah. Right. So I'm not just talking about any. This is a high risk lifestyle. If you are a prostitute, if you are, life is high risk as it is. So you just go out in the world and something can happen to you. But if you are living a high risk lifestyle and you're expecting your life to just run smoothly with no problems, The answer would be no.
When you start
like,
having
it's not gonna happen.
kids out of wedlock by men who aren't married,
You're
you put
contributing.
yourself in a position to be a victim, because then you have to go in the system. You don't have 5 or 6 different children by different men and then think that you're paying. Most women are going to go on the system. It's expensive to raise a child. You know what I mean? Especially if these men aren't going to be there for you.
That's another thing. It's the absentee father situation.
Men are going to jail.
This is something
but we're like 13% of the population, but we're 50% of the jail population. And so when you look at that, you think, why are black men going to jail? Well, you could say police brutality, you could say this, but then what do we do? Because these men are getting pulled for crimes. So if you're a drug dealer, then you have to say, you can't just say, I got, I had no other way of living. No, you do. It's just harder. And you didn't want to do the hard thing. You wanted to do what was right there in front of you and easy.
Now, and again, we do know there are cases where, driving while black. We understand. Look, we understand that there are racist cops. We get it, right? So we understand that. That goes without saying. We're talking about just taking the accountability of what your part is in your own mess.
Right.